Today on Beyond 6 Seconds.
I've always enjoyed doing relatable comedy, and it's weird because if I did, hey, remember this song from the 80s or this movie, if you're 20 or 30, you wouldn't get my reference point because that age didn't go through it. But now there's not a person in the world that hasn't gone through this.
Welcome to Beyond 6 Seconds, the podcast that goes beyond the 6-second first impression to share the extraordinary stories and achievements of everyday people. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel. On our show today, I'm speaking with John Heffron, a veteran stand-up comic and winner of NBC's Last Comic Standing Season 2. John's latest comedy album is called Episodes, and he just released a brand new book called The Holding Deal, and he has a new podcast called Kid with a Cape. John, thanks so much for being on my show today.
I appreciate it. Sorry about all the technical issues, but I'm with you.
Oh, no worries. It's part of the trade with the remote podcasting we're all doing these days. I listened to Episodes, which I think came out several months ago, maybe almost a year ago. You know, you always based your comedy albums on your real life and what's going on in your life. And I know when you wrote that, you were going through many challenging things in your life, presented in a very hilarious way. So just wanted to see how you were doing now.
Yeah, because, you know, with that album and just how I was doing that particular set is I look at younger people and go, you know, I'm not smarter than you. If life is like a Netflix series, I'm just a few episodes ahead of you.
Yep.
So I look at a 20-something-year-old and go, listen, you're 20-something, you know, I'm 49, I'm just 29 seasons ahead. And one day you'll watch this episode. And it's just, I kind of use that as a metaphor. And I just went through all the things that have happened, you know, and then last year, you know, I went through a divorce, I got Bell's palsy, I moved, like it was a lot of stuff. And right when you get settled in and you're like, okay, I got things dialed in, and Corona happens. It's so we'll add that to the episode, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, one thing especially resonated with me in your episode when you were talking about like almost like daring the universe and saying like, you know, how could things get any worse? I'm like, well, I think someone must have said that somewhere because it's like, okay, how about a pandemic on top of everything else going on?
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny how like with even that bit, how I can just keep adding to that.
Yeah.
You know, the origins of that story was I was going through divorce and I was like boo-hooing it like everybody does and you're allowed to. And that's an all right feeling. And, you know, you have a moment of like, whoa, life can't get any worse than this. My whole life is uprooted. And literally right when I became single, I got Bell's palsy and just kind of, you know, I lost the right side of my face. Or, you know, if you don't know what Bell's palsy is, you kind of, your brain loses the Wi-Fi password to the right side of your face and it kind of drops and it becomes paralyzed. And then you kind of hope it comes back. And there's no guarantee and stuff. And, you know, it was one of those things. And right after I get better with Bell's palsy, then I'm like, well, things are better. And then this whole thing happens. So you never can get stacked. And even though, you know, people are stuck at home, you know, it's not good for a lot of people. It can get worse. It can get worse. So you have to kind of be appreciative for what's going on, even if it kind of does suck.
Yeah, absolutely. For this album, Episodes, was it easier or harder to write this particular album than like your previous albums?
Yeah, because, you know, my early stuff was all kind of, hey, remember when? And, you know, it was really, you know, people could relate to it. It was relatable. And then just the older I get, I kind of just stopped talking about, hey, remember this toy in the 70s, which was funny. Just I would do more personal stuff. Yeah. And then that happened. And then I moved. I moved from Los Angeles to Michigan and bought like an old farmhouse. And right, you know, again, right when I started thinking about what's funny and all that, then that's when this hit, which is going to be weird because now everybody has a relatable thing that we've all gone through again. Yeah. Right. So, and I've always enjoyed doing relatable comedy. And it's weird because if I did, hey, remember this song from the 80s or this movie, if you're 20 or 30, you wouldn't get my reference point, right? Because you can't relate to it because that age didn't go through it. But now there's not a person in the world that hasn't gone through this. Yeah. Regardless of the age. Right. You know, from 0 to 100. So now it's just weird. Everybody can relate to the same thing. So I'm kind of curious, even a year from now, you know, hopefully when comedy clubs are back up, if a guy's talking about what he did during stay at home, you know, if that comic's 60 or if that comic's 20, everybody can relate to that person. We all experience this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, I don't even have jokes. Like I have so much downtime where I'm sitting, you know, going, I should work on material and stuff like that. And it's kind of a weird time where I'm like, I don't really even feel like it.
Yeah. Like, do you have to be in a certain like mindset or mood to sit down and write? Like, what's your process for that usually?
I write on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go on stage and let's say I think of something. I'll go on stage and just kind of say it, kind of trial by fire because there'll be people there and your brain's kind of moving a little bit quicker than normal.
Mm-hmm.
But the weird thing about this is there's been none of that, you know, so you'll go from the zero to just in front of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And as a comic, it's going to be weird because you can wonder, like, what are the crowds going to be like? You know,
yeah.
Is everybody going to be in the show worrying if they're going to catch anything?
Right.
Are they going to be the people that just feel indestructible? That's why they showed up at a comedy club. You know, they're going to be the early adopters that go out in public and be around groups. You know, it's so weird. I don't even know how to predict how even that happens.
I don't know.
Hope it happens somehow. But I don't know, you know, are people going to want to wear masks when you go to a comedy club? Is that going to be weird?
Right.
Then the comic would have to, but then if you can't see his mouth or, you know, him or her mouth, then the jokes, you know, you kind of have to see the person. It's going to be,
Yeah, it's a whole different way of life. We're just really, unfortunately, kind of at the start of it. And we really have no idea like what life is going to be like a year from now.
Yeah, who can predict it? Like nobody, well, you know what's going to happen is really because the last time that's what, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's going to be weird. During the Spanish flu, people ran to the comedy, like it's, or anything. I use comedy, obviously, because that's my point of view. But, you know, a concert or anything like, running to 10,000 seat theater to see a band or something like, I even see commercials now of like TGIFs or something where the restaurant's full and, you know, people are eating, you know, old, like not even old commercials from 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, look at all those people close to each other.
Right.
Why they like, it's a weird thing.
It is. It's such a weird mindset to be in right now. Yeah.
Well, reset everything. Like it literally reset reality.
Yeah.
However you thought reality was, you just, you know, you didn't think that reality can be switched like that. That's not how, the simulation is supposed to work. Yeah. Right.
Like everyone's now has to do things differently. And, you know, people who are out there like making their living as performers, whether you're a musician or a comedian or, you know, an athlete or something, it's like a completely different world right now.
Or, you know, servers or, I mean, everybody, like, you know, everybody comes in contact with usually, unless, you know, I even joked on one of my things, how I always wanted to just be a forklift operator in a warehouse and just work by myself, you know, like that person can go back to adapting. But I don't know if I feel comfortable as a performer, like if, you know, a city opened up tomorrow or, you know, next week. Yeah. And they go, hey, you know, everything's back in thing. You come here for the weekend. I think I'd even be right now as we're recording this. I'd be, I'll let the first couple people go first.
Yeah. I kind of want to see what happens. It's worrisome.
Until there's like a Hall's Lodgings or something I can have in my mouth while I'm up there. I don't know. Right. But you also have to make money, which makes it weird.
Yeah, that makes it tough. So I know you've been doing some other creative pursuits in the meantime. And one of them is that you now have your new podcast called Kid with a Cape. And so I did catch the first episode, which is why I learned that you're now in Michigan in the farmhouse and right. Kind of calling in with some of your friends. And so, tell me about your ideas for a Kid with a Cape and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I kind of, you know, it's hard when you don't have, but you could, again, this whole thing changed everything. Like, you know, having guests in studio or, you know, you're sitting across from them was always kind of the thing. Like even, I remember, you know, months ago when I would call into a podcast or a buddy would have one, everybody would be like, well, the audio's a little weird. We don't like doing it that way. And now that's just how obviously everybody's doing it. Yeah. So that wall has been broke. So now I don't know if you'll go back to the other way. It's easier just to do it through Zoom or do it through whatever. The audio quality will get better. So I think with my podcast, what I want to do is just have whatever I'm talking about. I just go to a friend or somebody who's knowledgeable on that thing. I talk to them for a little bit, like, you know, a couple minutes. Yeah. And then once my brain kind of leaves that thought, I move on to the next thing and the next person. You know, so I really kind of don't hang out on a guest for too long. Yeah. I think that's what I want to do. Yeah. You know, I don't know, podcasting, to be honest, I created the podcast to help push my book, but I did everything wrong. I should have did like 5 or 6 podcasts and then just, put the promotions for the book on all those. But that's making sausage. So I did a little bit of that wrong, but it's still fun to do. It got me to think a little bit more creatively than sitting around watching, YouTube videos for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so you do have the new book, which you mentioned, called The Holding Deal, and it's actually a spy thriller. So what inspired you to write a spy thriller?
I had the idea for 6 or 7 years, and I started working on it. Just in every comic has had this idea where you're a comic and people have written stuff where he's a serial killer every city he goes to or whatever. So I thought the killing people thing was kind of played out, but I decided it would be a great alibi for somebody who's in a band or who travels to be in different cities all the time. Nobody would question why they were traveling so much. So then that kind of gave me the idea for this comic who takes a little bit extra cash just to kind of be a courier. He just throws something in his computer bag, and every city he goes to, somebody comes up to him and asks for the envelope, and that's all, that's all he knows. And he gets a few extra bucks. He doesn't know what's in it. It's always papered, feels like a letter, almost like a FedEx thing. So that's how I kind of created it. And then for years, it was on my laptop. And then once this whole stay-at-home thing happened, I was like, I should probably just finish that. That'd be cool to just get that out. And then, if anything, I can sell books online or something. I kind of did it a little bit out of fear, and I paid an editor and we went through, we did it. And I'm pretty happy how it came out.
Yeah, I started reading it. I'm only on chapter 6, so I haven't gotten too far yet. But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and I tried to do, I'm not a writer. So I even signed up for that masterclass program.
Oh.
I maybe watched or took 2 online courses of how to novel write. And I just went through it. They give you homework assignments, and I just kind of used the book as homework assignments and just did it.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was it was like a Rubik's Cube. It was really hard to do. That's why it took me so long, because I'm like, I don't know how to end this chapter and move the thing along by chapter 3 and then release this thing. I didn't know how to structurally do it. And then I'm really bad at just, writing, sitting down. It was a dark Sunday. I don't even know how to do that. So every time I sat down, I'm going to write a 1960s-ish spy thriller and not even use current language. I almost pretended I was a guy at a typewriter with a thing of vodka or scotch. And, and I literally played a character in my head that was writing a novel. I needed a weird separation from that because I was like, John Heffron doesn't know how to write a spy novel. He can never do it. I'm like, well, his alter ego, who is a 1960s crime sleuth, he can do it. And I would literally have that mind frame when I sat down, and I wouldn't have any of the weird blockers,
Oh, wow.
But I purposely did that. In the book, I was rereading it. I was like, why am I saying trousers? I literally, instead of jeans, there are some parts on that where I could have updated it or made it feel really current. I'm like, nah, I think I kind of have, if this is a musical genre, I think I'm just going to stick in that and not get too me soundy. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely recognize a lot of the imagery you use and the way that you describe things is sort of part of that. Now that you're describing the genre, I'm like, yeah, I totally see how that fits in.
Yeah, those old, investigation things where he had a smoky window and his name was on it and you see a shadow knocking. That was kind of my mindset going into it.
Yeah. I've never tried to write a book, so I can't even imagine how hard it would be to sit down. And I have friends who have written books, and it takes them years as well. So I think it's great you were able to get it out.
Yeah, and you can make so. And the biggest thing is I'm such a horrible speller, and I'm not even sentence structure-y. It gets a little overwhelming, for people listening to this who are I always wanted to write a book. Is it too hard for me to do? That you can find somebody who can do the thing that you don't know how to do. Really easy. There's 8 billion websites you can go to. And I just, went to one and went, I need an editor. And I looked at people's resumes and just, hired this woman. She went through it line by line. She's like, this line doesn't make sense. You can't start it with and she, almost like an English teacher went through. Yeah. She had an hourly thing, but it made the book readable. If I was to do it in the original form, wouldn't have been. So, that took it to the finish line where I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah.
Now that I have that relationship with this person,
Uh-huh.
I'm already thinking about like the book 2 or like, what happens in the next one or whatever. And I think I can do a series way quicker than the first one.
Oh, well, that's great.
You know what I mean? So the first one took forever because I was whatever. But now that I got the characters and the thing and blah, 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 and this happens, now I think I can do maybe smaller. I think this book's like 250. Like I could do smaller, like especially if it's on Kindle. Mm-hmm. They have like these Kindle singles where it's like 30,000 words or 40,000, which is pretty short book, which is like under 100 pages for a Kindle. But people buy those for like $1.99. So I just can keep making this as a series.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited about that. And I launched the book wrong. That's the only bummer that I have, but it was also, I put it out right when this Corona was going on. Nobody was really in the mood it's a weird time. And I hate even selling stuff or going, hey, I got a book, you guys should buy. Like I hate even doing that.
Yeah.
So, but I couldn't predict that.
Right. It's tough. Yeah, I know people who have books coming out and they, of course, didn't plan for it to be in this scenario. So it is hard and you have to like suddenly think about like, all right, how am I going to sell this book? I can't do a book tour like I was going to do. And, it's all different.
I was going to, I was just happy. I was going to sell them. Again, it's not about the cash because there's not a lot of money in there, but I was going to sell them after shows. Yeah. And that's probably where I would have sold the most, so I was excited about it. I mean, that'll always be there though, too, once we get back and going. But now I want to kind of turn that book into like, I'm like, why would this not be an Amazon Prime TV show?
Yeah.
And like, why would I not? So now that the dough is made, I guess now I can kind of decide what I was going to do it as a podcast where I was just going to narrate it.
Yeah.
Almost like an Audible book. So I'm kind of looking into that, but that's a whole thing. So
no, because even with the, you mentioned that you worked with an editor who helped put it all together. But even so, I still can hear your voice as if you're like reading it or talking it. So that still shines through and your humor obviously shines through as well.
Yeah. And know how I did it again. If anybody wants to try to write one, they're like, this is overwhelming. Here's the cheater's way. What I would do is I would take like my podcasting stuff or just any recorder on whatever I had with me. And I would talk out. I would literally, because you have an imagination in your head. If I was to tell you, hey, make up a story about the princess going to the UPS store and then driving home. And I just let you go, you would make up a full story, right? You wouldn't think, well, would she be in a Prius or would she be in a Tesla? Like you would just say first thing that came out of your head.
Yeah.
So I would just do that. I would just start talking as if it really happened. And then I would pay this service to transcribe my long rant. Oh. There's a service that you get the transcription back in like 24 hours. So then I would get that back. And then I would go through and I'd edit from that long thing. And I grab the good points, or I would just use that as the Kickstarter. And then that's how I did it. I never really sat down and looked at an empty page and just started typing. I would just record myself going, they're blah, blah, blah. And there's this fake thing and this guy. And when I landed in Albuquerque, I decided I would just kind of just make up a story. And then, but I have it all recorded and then transcribe it. So I never sat down and typed, I landed in Albuquerque and blah, 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 blah,
Okay.
Because like, I'm such a bad typer. If I said, so my plane landed in Albuquerque and I started typing it, I'd spell Albuquerque wrong 700 times. And right now I just spent a minute trying to autocorrect that. And then my brain stopped what happened once I landed. Yeah. And so I didn't give myself any of those roadblocks. There's a lot of fat though, doing it the way that I just said. There's a lot of fat, but for me, it was quicker than trying to just go filet mignon immediately.
Right. That makes sense. You have to know yourself and know how you think of and write material. And is that sort of how you write jokes as well? Like, or you literally get like a paper and pen? Well, you mentioned you write on stage.
Yeah, I write on stage. I've never been a good paper and pen guy ever. Maybe I should be, like today, I think I even tried to do it for the first time and it was just nothing happened. I literally wrote down 3 things I learned about myself during the pandemic. That's all I wrote. And then I just was like, okay, I just got to come up 3 things, right? First 2 can be easy. And then the third one's just got to be the funny one. That's the comedy model. It's a pretty easy Mad Lib. But I just couldn't, I sat down. I'm like, okay, I made some like tea and I lit a candle and their son, right? I'm going to be all Hemingway. It's all going to be. And I was just like, nah, I'm going to go on Amazon and see how much bow and arrows are. Yeah. So that 3 thing will be in my head now forever. And I'll probably be in the shower, or usually if I'm doing something besides, like if I'm doing something is when it'll come to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think the only thing I learned about myself during quarantine is that like I can't stop touching my face. It must be like my favorite thing to do. Like as soon as I tell you can't do it, it's like, oh my God, what the hell?
Yeah, mine has been like, I was cleaning my house there, or parts of it, and I just moved, and I have a basement that's full of boxes. And at this point, there's no reason why everything shouldn't just be organized. Mm-hmm. I can just, all I needed was time, is what I kept telling myself. Because I travel so much. I'm like, oh, if I just had a week off, I could catch myself up. And I just, came to grips with myself and realized, nah, you can give me all the time in the world. I'm lazy. It's not going to make me work faster.
Yeah, I know. I think I still have boxes of stuff that have been there for like a couple of moves. It's like, I don't even know what's in there. I should just throw it in the garbage at this point, but can't bring myself to do it. So it just sits in the boxes.
Yeah, it's kind of, I went through this because you got to figure, I think everyone's kind of stuck in their house or whatever for a little bit more time, right?
Yeah.
I don't think everyone's rushing to the apple bobbing contest next week or anything. So, right? So, yeah. So just like, one Netflix show, one box, get her, a garbage thing and a box to keep, and just, you'll be able to bang out those boxes in like 4 episodes or something.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's literally what Netflix should have, is they should have like a thing that goes along with the thing you're watching, and it gives you a secondary thing to be doing while you're watching the series.
Yeah.
And just how much you'd be done.
Yeah, totally. Like they have ideas now for like doing wine tastings like on Zoom. So they like mail you the wine and then you get on a Zoom and you drink the wine with other people who are virtually drinking. So they could do it with like cleaning up boxes. It's like, all right, go clean up boxes. Go get your stuff. Don't throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm going to look at, I'm surprised there isn't some organizer that's like, it's the junk drawer, Zoom.
Yep.
And everyone takes one drawer, their junk drawer, and it goes, show and tell. Hey, wait, I might do that.
You should, because like unboxing videos, that whole concept is like huge. They got like 7-year-old kids opening up their toys out of boxes and have like 12 million followers. So we could do it with the junk drawer, or like, I don't know, any of the junk I have in my house. Should do that.
Yeah, I have my mom's junk drawer scissors.
Yep.
I'll do junk drawer.
I was just thinking about that.
That's right on brand.
It is.
Yeah. That's funny.
Just keep it away from the dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a lot of cool stuff going on, and the holding deal came out. I guess it came out a couple weeks ago, so it's still relatively new. Is that right?
Yeah, like I don't know in book things. Like if a month from now I'm plugging it, people are like, "Oh, that book's old news. That came out a month, So, but yeah, it's only 2 weeks out. It's doing pretty well. Like it's, my parents bought it. I bought one. My sister did not even know it was out. So that shows you what kind of marketer I am. So yeah.
What about your brother? Did he text you any emojis about it?
Yeah. I didn't get any. You got it though. So look,
I did.
I think that I haven't looked at stats, but so far just spitballing, I've sold 6.
Hey, well, hopefully it's more than 6.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So where can people connect with you to learn more about all the stuff that you're doing, like the book, the podcast? What's the best place to find you these days?
Yeah, you would think I would send people to a website because that's what people do. But now that you say that, I guess I have to put that on my to-do list of things that's not updated. I don't have my book on my website. If you just Google John Heffron, I guess most importantly, type John Heffron in your Amazon search and click on that thing is the most important. Comedian John Heffron on Instagram. Facebook / John Heffron, pretty much anything. There's a tech guy in San Francisco. His name's John Heffron. So, he could probably use the follows too. Sometimes people get us confused. I push people his way. He pushes people my way.
Sounds good. Okay. And I'll put the links to your book on Amazon and Instagram and Facebook and all that. I'll put it in the show notes.
There's a great on my Instagram. It'll say Linktree / John Heffron that has links to everything is on that.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to that. Yeah, well, thanks so much, John, for talking with me today. It was really great to learn about all the stuff you're doing and get a view into your creative process for jokes and writing. And it's really great.
All right. Well, thanks. And then go through those boxes.
Yeah. I'll look forward to your junk drawer videos soon.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Take care. Thanks for listening to Beyond 6 Seconds. Please help us spread the word about this podcast. Share it with a friend, give us a shout out on your social media, or write a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. You can find all of our episodes on our website and sign up for our free newsletter at www.beyond6seconds.com. Until next time.